Burnley find their shooting boots, there's more misery from Mourinho, and Liverpool stay unbeaten at the top. Welcome to the Top Bins Premier League review for Gameweek 6. I'm Mike, he's Dave, and this is the Top Bins Premier League review from Game Week 6. We've got all the action covered from the weekend. There's been some shock results, and there's been some pretty standard results in there too. We're going to start at one of the biggest surprises of the weekend, which was at Turf Moor, and Burnley 4-0 against Bournemouth. Dave, what's going on?
This is crazy. I mean, a team that weren't scoring and couldn't keep goals out versus a team that looked great in the previous 5 weeks.
Yeah.
What a flip. What a turnaround.
Unbelievable. I mean, a team that looked like they weren't able to score or even create chances in the previous weeks, and then out of nowhere burst into life at home, 4 goals, and don't concede as well. They've been leaking goals. They didn't concede. And they looked good going forward against Burnley.
They did.
Against Bournemouth, sorry.
They really did. And weirdly, Bournemouth looked pretty average going forward.
They did.
The guys that you expected, and we've called out, Wilson, King, Fraser,
yeah.
pretty quiet.
Yeah.
Especially Fraser. Fraser was really quiet, and I think that was a key to the forwards not doing so well.
Yeah.
And Joe Hart was sensational.
Joe Hart was brilliant. Well done again, Joe Hart, mate. We called you out last week, and we'll call you out again. Some fantastic stops in there, kept the team in the game, and it's really important when it's 1-0, 2-0, and you're struggling for a bit of form that you don't concede that goal to let the other team who are in form back into it. And Joe Hart was the difference between them being 2-0, 3-0 comfortable, and 2-1 and kind of roping on the edge.
And a couple of keepers we've been critical of, we're going to have to shout out this week. And he's definitely one of them. You 3 guesses who the other one is, but we'll save that for later. But yeah, Joe Hart, look, I'm not convinced Joe Hart he's certainly not England worthy anymore.
Nah.
The chocolate wrists was a favourite of mine. I think that's a fabulous call.
Yeah.
But he made, in particular, a save with his hand where it was all about his wrist strength, and that's probably the thing I'm most critical with.
Yeah.
He was great.
He was fantastic. And I thought the whole Burnley backline were actually really good, really resolute and solid at the back. They needed that clean sheet, and the goals from the likes of Lennon and the other players in their team really helped Burnley to kind of, hopefully this can kickstart their season a bit, because the Europa League clearly, and the qualification for the Europa League clearly caused them a lot of issues.
Yeah.
And this is hopefully the start of them kind of putting that behind them this season, because they're out of that, and just focusing on getting on with games now, picking up points at home like they did last season. They were fantastic at home, and keeping clean sheets, which was most important for them.
Yeah, and that was the key. I think keeping the clean sheet at home. I never would have picked scoring 4. I don't think they would have. I think the hangover from Europe lasted a couple of weeks longer than I thought.
Yeah.
But it looks like, look, if they can get this sort of form, even if it's just at home for the rest of the season, they'll be fine. And that really hammers the pressure on some of the other teams that were around them. Guys like Huddersfield thinking, oh, maybe Burnley will struggle and that could help us. Ooh, I don't think they're going to struggle so much anymore.
Nah. All right, over to another upset. I did call it I called an upset. I didn't quite call the result, and we'll get to that in the preview show later this week. But Wolves went to Old Trafford and got a point and looked good for it, didn't they?
Wolves definitely the best promoted team we've seen in the Premier League era. I mean, they've taken points from United and from City. That's number 1 and number 2 from last season.
Yeah. And
this is a newly promoted side. Yeah, they've spent a lot of money, but they're still a newly promoted side. And boy, have they... they've just been worth every penny, haven't they?
They've hit the ground running. I tell you what, I knew they would go to United and really put that high press on. And you saw Neves and Moutinho really put Pogba and Fred under pressure. And 2 players that are really settling in nicely in the Premier League, Neves and Moutinho. Moutinho scored an absolute screamer as well.
Goal.
What a finish that was.
Great goal.
And I thought that again, Pogba in little dribs and drabs was okay. Had nice moments, and the setup for Fred's goal was quite nice. The nice little kill of the ball and the way he kind of put that on the plate for him. But otherwise, I thought he was poor throughout the game. Didn't control the game the way he should. I thought Neves and Moutinho showed their class in that game. I thought Wolves were good for the win, to be honest. I thought De Gea kept United in that. Yeah, Rui Patricio had a couple of saves, one from a free kick from Fred, but overall, I thought Wolves were good for the win there.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I thought I mean, I picked United to win this game. I thought that they'd be a lot better at home against Wolves than they were.
Yeah.
I think you called it. I think a lot of the midfield play from United was pretty poor. They didn't look that great at the back. De Gea back to some kind of form, and boy, did he have to be, because, I think had of De Gea not had the game he had, Wolves walk away with 3 points here.
That's
Very
right.
lucky at times, United, I think, to stay in at 1-1.
Yeah, I thought the whole Wolves team played excellent. First half, they were tremendous. They worked so hard. They put so much pressure on high up the pitch. They knew when to time that press as well. They didn't always go with the press, but they timed that press, and when they did it, worked really well. They targeted Pogba when he was back, his back was towards their goal, and he really targeted them, and they did really, really well. And I thought they were good for the point, and unlucky not to get free.
Yep, and I think again you mentioned there as a team, and I think that's their biggest strength. They've got great individuals, but boy, they hunt as a pack. I mean, we've made that poor joke before, and I've gone back. But the Wolves team is one of the best teams in the Premier League in terms of when they go in, it's everyone. All 10 outfield players are singing off the same song sheet, and there aren't actually that many teams in the Premier League that are at that point yet. I think they've really got up to speed quickly, and they just look great.
Totally agree, Dave. All right, on to another upset for the weekend. My old mates, West Ham, less and less starting to think of it less and less, and got a 0-0 draw against Chelsea, which no one saw that coming, did they?
No. And look, having watched the game, Chelsea weren't great, but they weren't awful.
That's right.
I think Fabianski was absolutely unbelievable, and I think West Ham were good for the point.
I thought West Ham had chances as well. Mikel Antonio, if he had been a natural striker and not a left winger turned left fullback turned striker, then I reckon they could have got a goal there. If that was Arnautovic on the end of those chances, I reckon they would have probably nicked a goal or two there. And Chelsea had some chances, and Fabianski was good, but they didn't really look the tempo they set for the game, and West Ham looked up for it, and they were clearly buzzing from the week before and the result they got against Everton, and Chelsea just didn't quite look to have the tempo, to have the energy about them that would have sort of, if they were at their best, they would have comfortably seen off West Ham, but they just weren't quite at their best on the weekend.
Look, I think you nailed it with tempo. I think they, to me, looked like they maybe thought they'd won this before they walked out. They were a little casual, a few extra touches from guys like Hazard taking 2 or 3 touches, where in the previous weeks it's been one-touch football. It's been very quick, it's been very fluid. They just didn't look at their sharpest, and when the pressure came on in the last sort of 10 minutes and they thought, oh geez, we're not going to win this game, they started to step it up then, but it was already too late. And like you mentioned about Antonio missing it, I mean that was a bad miss, and boy, Arnautovic in the stand with his misses, he did not look happy.
Giving it both barrels, wasn't he, in the stand over there. All right, fair play to West Ham, got a good result, on a bit of form now, got a win and a draw, 4 points out of the last 6. Starting to put it together a little bit. Can they save themselves this season? Are they as bad as we first thought?
I feel bad saying yes, but I still think that at the back they're awful. I mean, Fabianski will have good games and do what he did, but Fabianski made a lot of saves, and that was because the guys in front of him weren't that great. Again, Declan Rice had another great game. First half, not really in the game, didn't quite know how to defend the Chelsea midfield, but once he realised what his space was to defend, he was very, very good, and he was a big reason they took a point out of this game. I still think, they're still going to struggle at the back. I still think January is going to be so important for them
Massive
to buy some defensive reinforcements.
Huge. All right, let's move on to the only unbeaten team in the division now. Your boys, Liverpool.
Only unbeaten. You think you mean only team to take maximum points? To
take maximum points.
That's
Sorry,
right.
Dave. They've done fantastically at the start of the season without really ever looking. Never really hitting the heights, I'd like to say, of what they did last season, but they got a job done. Very efficient again. 3-0, comfortably beat Southampton at the weekend.
Yeah, and they made some changes, not as many as I was expecting,
No.
but they did make some changes, and the power cube just looked fabulous.
Great first half, and then he got whipped, didn't he?
Well, this is where getting the hook at half time after probably being the best player on the pitch.
Tough.
But Klopp was pretty clear. He said, I've never ever told a player why I have hooked them at half time. This is the first time in his management career he's actually explained to someone why he's hooked them. And it was because he just wanted, I think he's going to play on Thursday against Chelsea in the League Cup, and I think he's going to have a part to play in this next sort of busy period. So whip him off and keep him fresh. But really happy with seeing Gomez get a rest was great, and seeing Joel Matip come in and scored and look comfortable at the back as well. And I think that's the Van Dijk effect. He just makes whoever's next to him feel comfortable and just it all flows really well. But
they played well, man. Got the win.
It was pleasing.
Are you daring to dream, Dave?
No, not yet. No. I mean, look, we're 6 games in. It's so early. We've got such important games coming up. Next 2 league games are Chelsea and City. Yeah. If we can walk away from those with a win and a draw, it'll start to smell pretty good. All right. But we're still so early.
And Southampton, very, very poor.
First shot on target, 93rd minute.
Lacklustre, no ideas, no penetration. Typical Mark Hughes team for me. I'm not sold on.
Really missed Danny Ings, didn't they? I mean, that said to me, and I'm not trying to be pro Liverpool Danny Ings here. This is just Ings as a player. Yeah, they really, really missed him. It was a real shame for them. I think I would have actually liked to have seen him play because boy, he would have been up for it.
Yeah, he would have.
But they look awful without him at the moment. But they just look beaten everywhere on the park.
All right, over to the current champions, Man City. And they did what we all expected them to do, and they gave Cardiff an absolute hiding.
Well, if Liverpool beat Southampton everywhere on the park, Man City absolutely shat on Cardiff everywhere on the park.
They gave them a proper lesson, didn't they?
They did. And I mean, our influential player from last week, who scored a ripper, had a shocker after that, old Bams, he didn't even feature, and it just made no difference. No. Absolutely hammered.
Yeah, I mean, it was always going to happen. Cardiff have just not got the quality in their team. They're lacking up front. They've got nothing really in terms of firepower up top. They're shaky as anything at the back. And when you're that bad at the back and you give City the time and the space and players like Bernardo Silva and Gundogan and Sterling, you give those players time and space and they'll ruin you. And that's exactly what they did. They absolutely tore them apart. City were good for 5. Could have been 10. They were absolutely brutal.
I think the only surprise for me was that Aguero only got 1.
That's right.
I mean, it was an awful day. It was awful conditions. Yeah. And to win 5-0 in those conditions, it says a lot, doesn't it? I mean, you're not able to play your natural game in the one touch and the pace. You have to pull things back a little bit for the weather, and they still won 5-0. And this is why I don't feel comfortable as a Liverpool fan, because you watch that and you think, holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's all setting up for this weekend coming, and some huge games this weekend and the weekend after. I mean, this really is a pivotal. I know it's early in the season, pivotal weeks that we've got in the next couple of weeks in the title race, and to really see who's the top dog in the Premier League at the moment over the next few weeks, and it'll be very interesting to see. But more on that in our preview show later on in the week. Let's move on to Spurs, and I mean, I felt that they were gonna struggle at Brighton, and they did struggle at Brighton, but they got the 3 points in the end. Eric the Apple with the winner.
They did enough, but I think that's as much to do with how poor Brighton is starting virtually every game. And if you look back at their games this season, they haven't had a really good first half. No. I don't think they really desperately came back last week. And boy, after half time, whatever Houghton does at half time, if he could do that before the game,
they'd pick up a few more points.
They'd be picking up points because they came out in the second half and looked by far the better team. For sort of 30 minutes of that second half, I was thinking, oh, this is good. This is good. Brighton are going to take this game. Yeah. And I actually thought in the end they were unlucky not to get a draw.
Yeah, and Tottenham again, just like in spells, decent football, but I worry for them this season that they might not make this top 4 because they look really jaded still. They look really tired. They look kind of a shadow of the team that we saw last season. The World Cup players look a shadow of the players they were in the summer. Just worry for them a little bit that top 4 might be a bit of a stretch with the squad that they've got and the lack of depth that they've got.
Yeah, I'm really starting to question top four for them. I think even though, Chelsea are certainly playing a lot better than I expected them to for starters.
Yeah.
But I think that battle for the fourth spot looks to be Arsenal, Man United. And Spurs.
Yeah.
And if I had to pick it right now, I don't know who I'd go with.
No, it's tough. They're also inconsistent. That's the thing.
That's it.
I think probably over the course of the season, United have probably got enough
in
the tank in terms of quality, and they've got a bit more depth than Arsenal and Spurs as well. But yeah, Spurs, even though they scored a couple of goals again, they don't look fluid going forward. Kane doesn't look sharp enough. I know he got a penalty and he scored
well taken penalty.
Well taken penalty, and you expect that from Harry Kane, but he's not looking as sharp as he once was last season, and I think they've got some pace and some dangerous players there with Mora, Son, and some of the other guys in their team, but they're just lacking a bit. And I do feel that they're going to struggle in the big games this season. That's where I feel they're going to really struggle in the team against the Cities, against the Chelseas, against the Liverpools and Arsenals and Uniteds. I think that's where they're going to struggle. And if they can't, then also pick up points against. And I know. Look, they won. They beat Brighton. All right, they got their 3 points. But if they can't beat teams like Watford, if they're not going to get full points against teams like that this season, they're going to struggle.
And they made it look hard. I mean, I don't think any team will go to the Amex and walk over Brighton this season, but Spurs made it look hard.
Yeah, they did.
And I don't expect Liverpool, I don't expect Chelsea, Man City to go there and make it look as hard. I know United lost there.
Yep.
But I think United are starting to come into a bit of form, whereas Spurs started with a bit of form and seem to have lost it. I think they need 3 big signings in January if they want to make the top 4.
Agree, Dave. Over to the Emirates, 2-0 win for Arsenal. Wasn't quite the comfortable scoreline that the score suggests, but I thought Arsenal, again, decent in patches, some great forward play from Lacazette. Very impressed with him at the moment, but Everton got to come away from that game thinking, if only we took our chances.
Shocking call for the second goal.
Yeah.
I mean, how that's not flagged
he's about
as
4
offside.
yards offside. Yeah, it's a shocker.
Blind
Absolute
Freddie
shocker.
sees that.
Yeah,
I mean, that was an absolute shocker.
Yeah, and the thing is, when you see the replays, he's bang in line with it. He's absolutely bang in line with it, and he doesn't call it. It's a shocking decision.
It's like he thought the defender hit the ball, but he was nowhere near it.
Yeah.
I just don't get it. But that aside, Lacazette looks great. Great goal. I mean, what a goal.
What a finish.
What a
What a
goal.
finish that was.
Horrible celebration. Fabulous goal. But, wow, what a goal.
Yeah,
But
lovely goal.
I felt like for large periods of that game, Everton was starting to really tear them apart on the counter.
And created a lot going forward. Walcott, a great chance early doors, 1-on-1 with Czech. Absolutely fluffed his lines. Could have squared it for a tap-in. Richarlison had chances. It weren't like they were shy of chances in the first half in particular. They just weren't clinical enough.
No, and I thought Richarlison got a little greedy as well.
Yeah,
I think he wanted to go out there and say, I'm back and look at me against Arsenal.
Yeah.
A couple of times he could have squared it. And I mean, Calvert-Lewin's not making you think, I'll pass to him, he's going to bang them away. But at the same time, you've got to be unselfish.
You've got to square it. Yeah.
And I think a couple of times he shot when he should have passed. Looked pretty good, though. I thought Walcott looked very good in patches, very quick. Would have loved to have scored against Arsenal, wouldn't he? But
I think that's what was going through his mind, to be honest, when he raced through 1-on-1 against Czech. I think he was just excited.
Yeah.
The fact that he might get a goal against his old team early doors, put it 1-0, and then they got the best of him.
It did.
He fluffed his lines, and I think was it Calvert-Lewin on the other post,
shocker.
absolutely screaming at him to square it. He didn't square it. So Everton, you only got yourself to blame in that one, I think. Again, I mention him each week. He hasn't scored yet in the Premier League, Cenk Tosun.
No.
And we're 6 games in now, and your centre forward, your number 9, has not got you any goals yet. You've got to start thinking: is he the right man for the job this season? And I worry that he's not.
I couldn't agree more. I think without Richarlison, they're going to be in deep trouble, and they're going to need goals from midfield. The other thing that really worries me is Pickford. I mean,
out of sorts, isn't he?
We watched a lot of the World Cup. We watched a lot together. We talked a lot about it. We're huge England fans, and we love Jordan Pickford. He had such a tournament, and that guy, he stayed in Russia. I don't know.
Shocking so far.
He has been pretty average.
Big mistakes last week against West Ham. Out of sorts again this week against Arsenal. He looks a shadow of himself at the World Cup, and I think a bit of that has gone to his head a lot of that World Cup, and he might have taken his eye off the ball a little bit. He'd have to get his head down, start working again. He's a young lad. Nothing's going to come easy to him yet, so he's got to get his head down again and start playing.
And he's a cocky confidence player, and he's lost a bit of that swagger, and I think that is showing in his game. But speaking of keepers, this is the second one. You knew it was coming. Petr Cech, we have been savage on you, and to be fair, rightly so. You have been pretty awful this season. I told him to go back to his drum videos. Hell, he put on a drumming masterclass.
Clinic on.
It was
clinic on.
He was fabulous.
Yeah,
he was everything you expect from Petr Cech.
Yeah.
And I think part of it was, I did notice they did not give him the ball to feet quite as much. They have pulled back on that. They've obviously talked about it.
Yeah.
He got rotated out midweek in the Europa League. He wouldn't have liked that.
Nah.
He's come back and he has had an absolute stormer, and he is the reason that they walk out 2-0.
Well, he did what he does best, which is being just a good shot-stopping goalkeeper. And when he's got that to think about, he's a good keeper. He's one of the best in the Premier League. He's an absolute legend in the Premier League in terms of goalkeepers. But it's when you start to bring in that element of his game where he's not so confident, not so comfortable. That's where we see him struggle. But well done, Petr. You had a good game, mate. Kept a clean sheet. Be delighted with that. And onwards and upwards maybe for Arsenal for him here.
Well, you'd think so. I mean, I thought at the back at times, I mean, Socrates was lucky to be on the pitch, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But
rubbish signing.
It's terrible.
Rubbish.
But Petr Cech, like, hats off, mate, because your positioning was just sublime at times. The reading of the game, all of the things that you expect from classic Chelsea Petr Cech.
Yeah.
Oh, it was like rolling back the clock, and I enjoyed it. I'm no Arsenal fan, but boy, I enjoyed watching him. He was great.
Lovely. All right, over to Craven Cottage, Fulham and Watford. Close game. It was always going to be a close game, I thought. Two very good footballing teams playing well at the moment. Even though Fulham haven't got the points, and we talked about this earlier, they haven't got the points on the board or the wins on the board at the moment. They're playing some good football. They are a little bit naive at the back, and they're going to need to continue to work on that. They gave away a sloppy goal against Andre Gray.
Early, too.
Very early. But they played some very nice football, and I'm very impressed with Seri in the midfield. He's a lovely footballer. He always looks to get the ball forward and get it into players' feet nice and early. He doesn't play passes for the sake of passing. He's very direct with his passing. He's very intentional. He gets the ball, he looks for players forward, and he gets going nice and early.
He's like the anti-Jorginho in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
like Jorginho and
lots of sidewards.
Yeah, same with Henderson to a point. Lots of side, lots of backwards. Just pass it. You won't see him do that.
Nah.
He may spray a few poorly, but he's always looking to be direct. He's always looking to make an impact with his passes. And 8-9 times out of 10 in this game, they really came off. I mean, he didn't play so well last week, but he's had a great game this week again. And yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it. Naive at the back. Yeah. I think at home they're really going to have to tighten up.
Big time.
And Andre Gray is looking great this season, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, he
Scoring.
really is. But so is Mitrovic.
Yeah.
And again, here we go. Yeah. And I think 1-1 was a pretty fair result.
Yeah, I thought Mitrovic deserved his goal again. He worked his socks off, the lad. Clearly, he's hungry at the moment for goals. I think he's 6-6 or 7-6 for club and country at the moment. Yeah. He's doing very well. He's in a rich vein of form. He's playing well. He's linking up really well. He's being that handful, that horrible striker, the one you don't want to play against. He's just nudging you and getting in front of you and winning headers and holding the ball up and linking up play. He's doing exactly what his manager will want him to do at the moment, apart from handling the ball a couple of weeks ago. Apart from that, he's done everything right, and I think he deserved his goal.
What Newcastle wouldn't give to have had him right now?
Just didn't play the right system. They didn't. No. Rafa didn't know how to get the best out of him. And unfortunately, they've lost a good striker there, because he's gone to Fulham, a team who've played to his strengths, and he's banging goals. Banged in goals last season in the Championship. Banged in goals this season so far in the Prem as well, and I can only see him continuing to do that the way they play. So, he's going to be right near the top of the goal scoring charts. No one scored more goals this season in the Premier League than Aguero. Than Aguero and Mitrovic. So together they are banging goals, and that shows you what company he's keeping at the moment.
That's right, and that's pretty fine company.
Pretty impressive.
To be keeping.
All right, we'll move over to Leicester. Good 3-1 win. They went 1-0 down and early doors, and it looked like there could be a potential shock on the cards when Huddersfield got that early goal. But our boy Jimmy Maddison. You had to wait a few weeks for it. We gave you the shout. You had to wait a few weeks, but he has kicked into life.
What I like about the kid is the confidence. I mean, he's gone up and he said, "That's my free kick."
Great free kick.
It's my free kick.
I love the difference, the diversity in the 2 free kicks. That one where in the first half he lofted it. He could have shot. Little loft over for Vardy. Vardy drags it wide, and then second half, bit close to goal, still central, bangs it top corner.
He's got a hell of a confidence, doesn't he, to step up and say both times, "That's mine." And there were other players around, more experienced players around the ball. He said, "No, that's mine. That's mine." And credit to the rest of the team for recognising that the guy's a great free kick taker and say, "Yeah, you have it, kid." And he looks great. I mean, what did they pay for him? 20 million?
Bargain.
Looks
Bargain.
an absolute bargain at this point.
I'll tell you what, Dave, I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's going to be England's creative midfielder for the next 5 or 10 years, I think, in the next year or so. I think Southgate has got... He has to call him up sooner or later. He's going to get a call up in the next game, I think. And he's playing very, very well. He's full of confidence. He's young and he's just got a great footballing brain. And I can see him leading that attacking midfield threat for England in the years to come. And I'm very excited by it. I think a player like that is exactly what we need in the middle of the park. A lovely bit of creativity. He works hard. He presses well. He's a good player, just a good overall footballing player. And I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do at a high level. I wonder if Leicester will struggle to keep him come the end of the season. Bit of a Mahrez situation. He might have a cracking season. Maybe they'll keep him. Someone might come in with the big bucks, and him being young and English as well. It's gonna the big boys are going to be very attracted to that.
Attractive signing.
You need your quota of English players, young English players, and if they're top quality like that as well, then you're going to be all over them. And I think the likes of City and Liverpool, they'll be all over him.
Well, we wanted him, and that's the interesting thing. I think I've read that we didn't pick him up because we weren't sure how he'd make that first season transition. Yeah. He's proven he's taken to it like a fish to water, hasn't he? But I hope, for Leicester's sake, they've given him a chance.
Yeah,
they've spent the money and they've given him a chance. I'd like to see him there for a couple of seasons. And I think in terms of, like yourself, I see him as an England prospect, and he's banging on the door already. Imagine what he's going to be like at the end of next season if he gets 2 full seasons starting at Leicester.
It's exciting.
I think he'll be a great player, and I hope he gets that experience before he moves on.
Yeah, me too. All right, Palace and Newcastle was a bit of a drab game, bit of a nothing game really. Another one that both teams will probably come away from both a bit disappointed, thinking 3 points was on the cards there and it didn't quite take their chances.
It was like sometimes you'll see 0-0 and you'll think, oh,
like the West Ham Chelsea game.
Yeah, not a great game, but and it'll turn out to be a cracker, like you say, West Ham Chelsea. But this was every bit the 0-0. It was just nothing great about this game at all. You thought it'll be Zaha that decides it, and nothing.
Maybe it was. I'll tell you what. Maybe it was a tribute to Christian Benteke. They both decided to pay tribute and not score in honour of our Lord and Saviour Christian Benteke.
Oh, isn't he just so fabulous? I mean, I don't know. I worry for Palace. I mean, I worry for Newcastle as well.
This is like I said. This kind of game is a missed opportunity for both of them. They'll look at the fixture, think there's 3 points for the taking there. Both of them not taking enough of a chance, not taking enough of a risk to go out, grab the game by the horns and win that game, and both will end up with a point slightly disappointed.
Well, I think Newcastle, while disappointed, will be the least disappointed because, I mean, Crystal Palace at home, for me, should be winning this game.
Yeah, agreed.
And they've really let 3 points go here. Newcastle will probably say, 1 point, not too bad. It would have been lovely to sneak a winner. I think at Newcastle, it would be the same. If it ended up as a draw there, they'd feel the same. But Crystal Palace really should have won this game.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've got some cracking games coming up next weekend in the Premier League, game week 7, and we're going to be previewing all of those games in our Top Bins preview coming up at the end of the week. So make sure you check that out. This has been our review of game week 6. We've loved all the action. Not as many talking points as we would have liked this week, but you can't have it every week. So be it. So make sure you go over to our Facebook. Liverpool still top as well. Make sure you go over to our Facebook. It's facebook.com/TopBinsFantasy. Give this a like, hit subscribe, share this with your mates, and we'll see you very soon. Cheers. And a chip on their shoulder. As they walk like they talk like they know. Walking, talking like they know.
What do they know? Talking like they know. Maybe they know, no, 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 no.